It doesn't matter how much of a die-hard fast food fan you are, chances are pretty good that you've spent at least some time wondering what goes on behind the scenes. Disney princesses are pop culture powerhouses, and the glittering group encompasses a wide variety of traits. Mulan and Merida are warriors defined by their willingness to break with traditional femininity. Snow White is a beacon of kindness and patience, Tiana is a visionary chef and a persistent pragmatist, and Moana and Rapunzel long to explore the world on their own terms. These heroines span decades, animation styles, studios, and mythic origins. There are undoubtedly some things that are more of a pain to make than others, some things that just sort of slip through the cracks, and it's not always carelessness, sometimes, it's just human nature in a work environment where there's so much going on. So, what menu items are on the questionable list, and why? McDonald's employees might have the whole menu at their disposal when it comes time for them to order their own meals, but what do they skip? Let's talk less than fresh and questionably clean, and ask yourself, are you going to give these a miss, too? Or will the testimony of a few employees not sway you away from your favorites? Although, a bit of a disclaimer, questionable practices that go on at one location aren't happening at them all, and there are plenty of well-run locations out there who are staffed by managers who insist on cleanliness. This isn't indicative of all locations by any means, but it might give you an idea of what's first to be neglected. Chicken nuggets might not be the mystery meat they used to be, but according to former McDonald's employees on Reddit, fast food workers of Reddit, what should we not order at your restaurant? Why not? Many still give nuggets a miss. At least, they make sure they're not grabbing some off the stack of food that's ready and waiting to be served. Employees say that pre-made batches of nuggets are kept warm by a dual-purpose timer that's supposed to encourage employees to toss nuggets that have been sitting. But multiple employees say that while they use the timer, it also turns on the warmer. They would rarely throw the nuggets out and make fresh ones. Instead, they'd just reset the timer. Some say the nuggets tasted just fine even after sitting through several turns of the timer, while others describe the old nuggets as questionable at best. And yet somehow, they've cohered into a singular group that billions of people recognize on sight. For so many of us, love of the Disney princesses begins in childhood. But watching Tangled or Sleeping Beauty as a grown-up is a very different experience than doing so as a kid. Ask for fresh nuggets, they say, or opt for something else. Anything from the McCafe machines. One McDonald's employee on Reddit goes into some extreme detail when it comes to explaining just why they refuse to drink any beverage that comes out of the McCafe machine. Adults can't help but recall alternate versions of Mulan's story they've heard as they watch her battle Shan Yu, and they might even remember the days in which a surprising character was part of the official princess line. They say it's incredibly difficult to clean completely, and that in their experience, it's one of the machines that gets routinely neglected. These are those Disney princess details only adults notice, from bloody origins to corporate controversy. Belle and the Beast are on the French Revolution's chopping block, pinning down Beauty and the Beast's time frame as difficult. They describe the insides as being caked with inches of gunk, and claim they've seen it at multiple locations. This is one instance where it really depends on the staff at each location, and several other employees chime in to say their store cleans their McCafe machine on a nightly basis. It falls into that broad fairy tale category of 1700s-ish, when the gowns still require hoop skirts but knights in plate armor aren't so much a thing. They say it takes 30 to 45 minutes to clean the machine properly, so it's easy to see how it might not get done regularly at a location where the staff is less than diligent about cleanliness or not trained in the proper procedures. However, Luke Evans, who plays Gaston in 2017's Beauty and the Beast, narrowed the era down considerably in an interview with Entertainment Weekly, saying, when Gaston was about 16, he protected the town from a pack of Portuguese marauders in 1740. Based on this assertion, we can assume Beauty and the Beast takes place in the 1750s, perhaps as late as 1760. Some employees know not to take the risk. Filet O Fish. A number of McDonald's employees have taken to Reddit and social media to warn people away from the Filet O Fish. Former employees on the Reddit thread, restaurant chain workers, what dish should we not order and why? Say they avoid the Filet O Fish, or, at least ask for one that's made fresh, as others have probably been sitting in a heating cabinet for hours. Other employees say the same thing, and note it's also one of those sandwiches that's just impossible to make neatly. The reign of Louis XV serves as solid backdrop for this beloved romance to play out against, until one remembers the French Revolution began in 1789. Belle and the Beast have until middle age to enjoy their luxurious life. After that, things get dicey for couples and castles. Yet their grisly fate isn't set in stone. The combination of tartar sauce, cheese, and slightly greasy fish means that when you get it, it's going to be a sloppy mess. While some locations likely make fish fresh, it may be limited to locations with particularly diligent managers who go the extra mile to make sure everything they put out is fresh. In 2020, Disney kicked off the Queen's Counsel, a new line of historical novels that intertwine their heroines' stories and actual history. Rebel Rose, the first book in the series, locates Belle in 1789. She's just freed the Beast from his spell, but the revolution is nearing their fabulous doorstep, and she finds herself, torn between her roots as a commoner and her future as a royal. Someone better teach Lumière the words to La Marseillaise. The real John Smith might have made up Pocahontas. Rescue kids are easily swept up in Pocahontas' jewel-toned vision of conflict, harmony, and sentient willow trees, not to mention Colors of the Wind, one of the best Disney songs ever written. But adults are a whole lot more likely to know just how vastly Disney's version differs from the actual history that it's based upon. First off, the woman known as Pocahontas wasn't actually named Pocahontas. Others also say the sandwich tastes good no matter what, but if employees won't eat the ones that have been sitting in the heat cabinet for hours, why should you? Smoothies, milkshakes, and sodas. One McDonald's employee on Reddit warned others against ordering smoothies from McD's, because once again, the McCafe machines are not to be trusted. She was named Amanute and also called Matoaka. Pocahontas was a nickname meaning little wanton, for her mischievous nature. Not only would they not drink them themselves, but there were times that they just told customers the machine was down, because it was so disgustingly dirty they didn't feel right serving anything out of it. Other employees chimed in saying they avoided the things that came out of pretty much most machines, including sodas and milkshakes. Milkshake machines were, in their experience, definitely not cleaned every day and tended to accumulate a crusty buildup. Cleaning cycles were run every 2 weeks or so, and they described it as legally okay. Soda machines weren't even done that often, and were almost always full of sludge. And she was indeed little. Pocahontas was roughly 11 or 12 when she rescued John Smith. According to one employee, their Coke representative said most machines he serviced were full of syrupy gunk. Even that rescue is in doubt, however, as some historians suggest Smith lifted the tale entirely from a popular ballad. Pocahontas was later kidnapped by an English colonist and used as a bargaining chip during the First Anglo-Powhatan War. She was eventually taken to another English settlement, where she converted to Christianity, took the name Rebecca, and accepted a marriage proposal from John Rolfe. Now you know. McFlurry and the soft serve. In 2017, social media had a meltdown when a McDonald's employee from Louisiana posted pictures of the drip tray he pulled out of the ice cream machine at his location. According to the employee only identified as Nick via Independent, the drip trays were pretty much never cleaned, and typically filled with a moldy, rotten goo. McDonald's issued a formal response that said, in part, "This is a part of our soft serve equipment that does not come into contact with any food and is required to undergo regular and timely cleaning." Nick was fired not long after his post, but he's not alone in his warning. In the Reddit thread, AMA request, someone who works at McDonald's and can explain why the ice cream machine is almost always down, some employees spoke up with less than appetizing responses. One 5-year employee said the machines were always dirty, too, and they suggested heading somewhere else for an ice cream fix. Though this marriage ensured a ceasing of hostilities known as the Peace of Pocahontas, the woman herself died in England only a handful of years after her marriage, at the age of 21. Disney isn't the first to refashion her story for their own purposes, and they won't be the last, but the truth of her life remains regardless. Mulan meets an unfortunate fate in some versions of her tale. Mulan's story is one of absolute bravery. Despite the fact that she's a woman, despite her lack of training, despite her insecurities, she goes to war in her father's place. Her courage sustains her through these trials, which end in the hardest one of all, facing her father. But he embraces her upon her return. Another employee spoke to their location's true problems: employees who didn't care enough about any part of their job, including the complicated process of cleaning an ice cream machine. So, yuck. Egg white breakfast sandwiches. McDonald's, and other fast food chains, have made huge strides toward making their menus healthier, or at least offering customers healthy options. According to employees answering one Reddit thread, their egg white sandwiches aren't nearly as healthy as you think you are, and the people that are actually cooking them avoid eating them. It's all in the preparation method, and they say that there's a ton of butter sprayed on the grill and on the ring molds to keep the eggs from sticking. All that's piling on the fat and calories, so it turns out that your healthy choice isn't so healthy after all. It gets worse. Other employees chimed in to say that calling it butter was a bit of a misnomer, and butter substitute was probably more accurate. Either way, they say egg whites aren't the way to eat healthier there. Grilled chicken. Grilled chicken is another option you might gravitate toward if you're thinking you want something that's at least slightly healthy, but according to employees on Reddit, you might want to do what they do and avoid it. According to one employee on the Reddit thread, "I am a McDonald's manager AMA. Anyone thinking about ordering the grilled chicken should think twice. Her bravery isn't womanly, but that doesn't matter any longer, it's granted her the sort of honor that transcends sex." Not every rendition of Mulan's tale follows this path, however. They called it horrible frozen chicken that we defrost and steam, and it's a bit gelatinous. Those familiar with her folktale, which dates back to the 5th century, know that it has conveyed many different messages and morals over the years, including a few that fans of the movie might find disconcerting. Chu Renwo, author of the late 17th century romance of Sui and Tang, depicts Mulan as a virtuous warrior, one who becomes a sworn sister to the benighted Princess Xianeng. Tragically, the respect she earns while posing as a man evaporates upon the revelation of her womanhood. Rather than be forced into concubinage, she slits her own throat over her father's grave. This is but one of many versions of Mulan's story, shaped by a context few modern readers recognize. But it lingers, known to certain adults and very few children who are able to marvel with unique insight at just how much one story can change over the course of centuries. If you or anyone you know is having suicidal thoughts, please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK, 8255. Disney princesses weren't a thing until 2000. Once upon a time, there was no such thing as a Disney princess. Now, there were princesses in Disney movies, but the concept of Disney princesses as a distinct pantheon didn't yet exist. It wasn't until Andy Mooney, a former Nike executive, was put in charge of Disney's struggling consumer products division in 2000 that the Disney Princess brand took shape. Having noticed a plethora of girls at a Disney on Ice show wearing homemade costumes, he realized the wealth of affection that existed for Snow White, Ariel, Belle, and the rest of the royal cohort, and how lucrative it might be. Though the Disney Princess line might seem to be an immovable part of the media landscape to little ones, those who remember the pre-princess era can recall its absence, and then, its sudden omnipresence. And nothing about that sentence suggests it's either grilled or healthy. Other employees chime in with other opinions suggesting it might not be so bad after all, but that when it comes to deliciousness, it doesn't have anything on their crispy chicken. Sure, you could find Belle bedsheets and Ariel dolls prior to the line's creation, but you couldn't walk into a big box store and find Disney Princess branded notebooks, alarm clocks, fruit snacks, bandages, lip balm, paper plates, and just about everything else. Disney Princess was launched with little marketing and no focus group research. As Mooney reflected in later years, we simply gave girls what they wanted. So ardently do girls want it, in fact, that the brand raked in an unheard of $1 billion in sales in the first 3 years of its existence. Now that's a happily ever after. Tiana is based off one of the most important chefs in American history. The Princess and the Frog is unique among Disney movies in that it has a specific, real-world setting, New Orleans, 1928. If that's not enough to dissuade you, another employee from the Reddit thread, "I am a McDonald's employee. AMA," said they avoided the grilled chicken for another reason. It was so rarely ordered that it was likely to have been sitting for a long, long time. Granted, there are a few liberties taken. Prince Naveen hails from the fictional nation of Moldonia, after all, but by and large, Tiana lives in the world as we know it. While others say that wasn't the case at their location, a few employees chimed in to verify a grilled chicken sandwich might sit for hours. Healthy items in an attempt to be healthy. According to one employee on the Reddit thread, "I am a McDonald's manager AMA. A lot of the items customers might think are healthy are ones that the employees know absolutely aren't. Her life is, in fact, girded by major events and historical currents we feel to this day. They say there's a lot of secret stuff that goes on to make these apparently healthy options not so healthy after all, starting with the wraps. Wraps are usually a great option, and they help cut out all the carbs of bread. World War I took her father from her. Sugar barons, and cotton kings, dominate her Louisiana, and businessmen dismiss her ambitions, since a little woman of her background is better off where she's at. Happily, Tiana triumphs over naysayers and tragedy, and even her success is historically rooted. But McDonald's wraps? That's deep-fried chicken in there, and that's definitely not healthy. The veggie patties are also deep-fried, which negates any hopes for a healthy lunch there, too. We haven't even started in on their salads, that are not only topped with dressing that's horrible for you, but that might have all kinds of other issues, too. Tiana was inspired by Leah Chase, a legendary chef known as the Queen of Creole cuisine. Her restaurant, Dookie Chase, is an American landmark. It became a major gathering place for the civil rights movement, a dazzling art gallery, and of course, a celebrated beacon of Creole cooking. Be sure to check how fresh they are before you dig in, as employees warn they may be old. Employees also say the chicken is always pre-cooked and frozen, and add that if you're looking for something that's better for you, the beef is actually the way to go. Sweet Tea when Reddit asked, fast food workers of Reddit, what is the one menu option at your employment that you would recommend people never eat? One McDonald's employee simply responded with McDonald's sweet tea. They say there's an entire pound of sugar in each gallon of tea, and can that possibly be right? Take a peek at McD's nutritional information, and you'll see that the small has 90 calories and 0 fat, making this masquerade as a healthy option. But that same small beverage also has 21 grams of sugar, and to put that in perspective, the NHS recommends the typical adult restrict themselves to only 30 grams of sugar every day. You're way over that if you order the large, which comes with a whopping 38 grams. While everyone might expect sweet tea to have some sugar, no one expects it to have almost twice the sugar as a Coke. Dookie Chase has served leaders and luminaries ranging from Barack Obama to Ray Charles, who even mentions the locale in Early Morning Blues. Chase, who was delighted to serve as the inspiration for Tiana, passed away in 2019 at the age of 96. Her legacy lives on in her restaurant, the hallowed halls of the Smithsonian, and The Princess and the Frog. Not every Disney princess is an actual princess, and some actual princesses aren't part of the group What is a Disney princess? Easy, a kid might reply, a princess from a Disney movie. Sure, things can get a bit fuzzy. Moana is defined more by being a chief in training than the daughter of a chief, which is already pushing it, but the descriptor generally holds, until one remembers Mulan. A small Coke comes in at just 12 grams of sugar and 45 calories, so listen to employees and just give this one a miss. The McRib. This might break the hearts of a ton of fans of McDonald's McRib, but according to the employees of the Reddit thread, fast food workers of Reddit, what is the one menu option at your employment that you would recommend people never eat? The McRib was on the top of the short list for a lot of people. One former employee says they saw it before it was sauced, and would never, ever actually eat it. An inveterate commoner, albeit one of great distinction, Mulan is not, by even the most generous definition, a princess. They even described the pre-sauced McRib like this: it doesn't look like meat at all, it looks like a scab. Is there a more disgusting way to describe a pseudo-burger? Other employees volunteered that in spite of the McRib's cult following, not a lot of people actually ordered it. That meant the already funky-looking patty would spend all day in the sauce, making it even funkier.
It turns out that bun might be hiding a lot, and if employees won't eat what they see, maybe you should give it a miss, too. Side salads. Even if you're suspicious of McDonald's full-size, fat and calorie-heavy salads, you might think one of their side salads is an easy, healthy option for a quick lunch. But according to employees via news.com.au, side salads are not the way to go. While they're usually stickered with a date, that sticker may not be the original one. Moreover, consider this. Employees say that they're not a popular item, but managers that don't want to waste them will simply have employees re-sticker them with a new date. At least one employee has said it's a part of their daily routine, and that's pretty cringy, especially considering the difficulties McDonald's has had with their salads in recent times. Neither Elsa nor Anna from Frozen are considered official Disney princesses. Even if we allow for Elsa's exclusion, given her queenship, we have no explanation for Anna's absence. What makes a Disney princess is, in reality, a question with no real answer. They made headlines when they pulled thousands of salads from their stores across the Midwest in 2018, and whether or not that's changed the undoubtedly unofficial procedures around their side salads, that's uncertain. The literal definition of princess has never mattered much. As grown-ups of a certain age might recall, Mulan has been part of the line from the very beginning, as was Tinker Bell, until she was removed to lead the Disney Fairies franchise. Anna and Elsa's position has also grown murkier in recent years. A good rule of thumb? Don't order the unpopular thing. Apple pies. No one goes to McDonald's just for a dessert, but while you're there, you might be tempted to add something sweet onto the end of your order. But according to what employees told Reader's Digest, you might want to rethink ordering that one dessert you can tuck in your bag and save for around 4 o'clock, when you really need a pick-me-up. That is, of course, the apple pie. Their inclusion in Ralph Breaks the Internet's princess-centric scenes can be taken as proof that they're in the group, yet they remain absent from the official Disney Princess website. Employees say they tend not to get ordered very often, so there's a good chance they've been sitting on the shelves for a very, very long time. They exist on the outskirts of the Disney princess clique, close enough to see it but firmly outside its walls. But hey, at least the cold never bothered them anyway. Until recently, Disney princesses never made eye contact. Believe it or not, many within Disney didn't welcome the idea of the Disney princess line. Roy E. That seems like it's only going to get worse. When McDonald's released their new and improved baked apple pie, Inc. reported that pretty much no one was happy about it. Given the amount of hate the new pies got on social media, it's safe to say they might be sitting there even longer. Disney, Walt Disney's nephew and a longtime executive of the company, was among the most outspoken critics of the franchise. Especially if the masses decide not to embrace this new, healthier, happier dessert. Burgers with small patties. The Redditor behind IAM, a former McDonald's employee, I know all of their secrets, had some unsettling words of warning to share, and warned customers against ordering burger with small patties. Those are the ones that come on a standard hamburger or cheeseburger, and here's why they said they made sure they didn't order these. He believed that having the princesses gang together would destroy their individual mythology and therefore the value of their films. This had been the prevailing wisdom for years. An Ariel doll and a Jasmine doll were, once upon a time, very clearly marketed as Little Mermaid and Aladdin toys, respectively. Those things come off of the grills still red with blood, and then we would shove them in the trays where they would stay for hours. Responses were mixed, with some people pointing out that's just how you make a good burger. The movies, Disney and those of like minds believed, were the core of the company and couldn't be muddled. As is now obvious, the Disney princess idea prevailed, and it went on to earn billions. But the Redditor continued that they were told to only partially cook the burgers, which would then finish cooking when they were stacked in the tray. But this criticism made its mark in certain rules that were established for the franchise. Each princess is distinguished by a signature color, meaning that Aurora's infamously color-changing dress was made to settle on pink, so as not to compete with Cinderella. Most prominently, it was agreed that the princesses should never make eye contact. Others volunteered that they had found out the hard way that when it's super busy, the patties aren't in the tray long enough to cook all the way through, and customers get undercooked patties.
Sometimes, it was so busy those patties don't even make it to the heat cabinet, and yet another Redditor said they had found the grills were almost always improperly calibrated for cooking this way. Food for thought. Ketchup. What could possibly be wrong with the ketchup at McDonald's? A lot, according to one McDonald's manager answering questions on Quora. It's those ketchup dispensers you should be really wary of, and if you're going to be eating in the restaurant, you might want to consider asking for ketchup packets. When assembled on backpacks, cereal boxes, and posters, they give no indication of existing on the same plane as the princess beside them. Apparently, employees tend not to clean the whole dispenser often, and only refill it with ketchup when it needs to be topped off. One must assume this rule is no longer strictly observed, given Ralph Breaks the Internet's scenes of intra-franchise princess fraternization. New princesses get real-world coronations in actual castles. Disney royals are often crowned within their own movies. Frozen kicks off its story with Elsa's coronation, Rapunzel realizes her own identity upon donning her stolen tiara, and Moana closes out her story by taking her place as chief of Motunui. On good days, parts of the dispensing unit might be cleaned, but customers beware, there's a lot that's behind the counter that just can't be seen by someone filling those little white cups. Who knows when the bags were last changed, the manager says. But as it turns out, Disney princesses are often crowned within the real world as well, and sometimes in actual palaces. Tiana, the first new member to be added to the Disney princess lineup, was crowned in 2010, in a lavish ceremony at the New York Palace, a luxury hotel and historic landmark located on Madison Avenue. Luminaries including Audra McDonald and Tina Fey were in attendance, in addition to every other Disney princess and a gaggle of very lucky little girls. With only the easily accessible bits and pieces of the dispenser getting washed on anything close to a regular basis, what results is a clean-looking machine above and old ketchup below. Rapunzel hopped across the pond for her coronation, which took place at London's Kensington Palace. A whole host of similar events have taken place within the Disney parks, some honoring Disney heroines who aren't officially part of the Disney princess line. Play it safe, and grab some packets. Brand new or limited edition items. We all know that what you get on your tray probably isn't going to look much like the commercial, but when it comes to certain items, the McDonald's employees who spoke to news.com.au say they're more likely to be a mess. Anything that's just been added to the menu or is only on for a short amount of time is likely to be made fairly badly, and probably wrong. For example, Anna and Elsa, as well as Elena from Disney's Elena of Avalor series, have all enjoyed fetes, parades, and royal welcome ceremonies full of fabulous costumes, horse-drawn carriages, and a whole lot of trumpet blowing. You can hang out with the princesses in the Disney parks, but it'll cost you. Ideally, a trip to a Disney park should feel utterly and effortlessly magical. According to the former employee, nobody knows how to make it, and I can guarantee you it will be made wrong or missing ingredients. It's not entirely surprising. After all, adding items and changing a menu means there's a learning curve, and it's not like the kitchens at McD's have the time to slow down. The passion these destinations inspire in their legions of devotees proves that a whole lot of the time, Disney manages to accomplish this feat. And no one likes that feeling of disappointment when they get back to their desk, only to discover that the lunch in front of them is nowhere near the lunch they thought they were going to order. But the game is entirely changed when it comes to princess-centric park events. Now, meeting the princesses is eminently doable. Buyer beware, and stick to those tried and true favorites. Anything. They're placed all over the park, available for photos, autographs, and tearful confessions of childhood love. Without asking for it to be fresh, no one can argue that McDonald's is some seriously high-quality cuisine, but it can be pretty good. There are some days when you just need some McDonald's fries, and when you only have a short half-hour for lunch, it's pretty much perfect for a hot meal on the go. But affairs like Cinderella's Royal Table, a luxurious meal held in Disney World's iconic Cinderella Castle, featuring appearances from the princesses themselves, are a whole lot harder to attend. Thousands of posts, articles, and blogs exist that aim to help parkgoers, often adults eager to dazzle their children, wrangle a reservation. According to one intrepid mom, Cinderella's Royal Table requires an aspiring dinner guest call exactly 180 days prior to the desired date, at precisely 7 a.m. However, not even that is foolproof, and some gurus suggest making multiple reservations, lest one time become untenable. This sort of hoarding is controversial, but when it comes to making the magic happen for little ones, most parents are willing to get unscrupulous. Disney princess merchandise isn't just for the little ones. The world of Disney princess merchandise is vast and ever-expanding. Even the richest kid in the world couldn't hope to own every single princess-branded item pushed out into the ravening marketplace, and that's only counting the stuff explicitly meant for kids. While most Disney princess merch is indeed for children, there's a whole wide world of products featuring Tiana, Rapunzel, and the rest of the gang that's squarely aimed at grown-ups. Considering tying the knot? You can now put a Disney princess engagement ring on it, then walk down the aisle in a Disney princess wedding dress. Want to keep the Disney spirit alive as you eat? You can buy a 16-piece dinnerware set inspired by your heroine of choice. But according to some employees and ex-employees, you shouldn't order anything without taking a few extra minutes to specify you want it made fresh. One Redditor said that it had been their experience that their coworkers didn't care how long something had been sitting there, they'd just keep resetting the timers, for hours on end. I occasionally make it a point of accidentally ruining product in some fashion, they admitted. Coworkers hate me for it, but management knows I am just trying to keep fresh food going without directly tossing food into the waste bucket. That's nauseating. Another Redditor shared similar thoughts, saying, "9/10 times when that timer goes off, people just reset the timer. Just because it's fast food, that doesn't mean you should settle for anything but the freshest. Looking to primp in princess style? Prepare to drop a few $100 on some Disney princess branded makeup. Want to liven up boring, grown-up tasks like meal planning and bill payment? Keep track of everything in an official Disney princess planner." The Redditor behind "I am a McDonald's employee AMA" agreed, saying it's definitely worth a few minutes of your time to wait for your order to be made fresh. Fast food, this one's a little different. Let the little ones have their plastic jewelry. A princess-loving adult can spend their hard-earned hundreds on literal diamonds. An all-princess movie is possible. Picture this. A brave band of heroes from a variety of different movies, all made by Disney, gathered together to fight evil in one blockbuster film. In 2013, McDonald's warned employees against eating too much fast food on their own employee website. Are we talking about the Avengers? Close, but no. According to NBC News, the warning was posted on their resources site, and read, in part, "While convenient and economical for a busy lifestyle, fast foods are typically high in calories, fat, saturated fat, sugar, and salt and may put people at risk for becoming overweight." Along with the warning was a photo of a hamburger and fries. Other parts of the post warned cheeseburgers were generally an unhealthy choice, and even stranger, the fries and soda also featured in the post were McDonald's red, even though they were missing the logo. And that's the most bizarre bit of employee advice of all. McDonald's employees recommending that their own employees not eat much of their own food, because it's inherently unhealthy. McDonald's responded, saying a healthy diet was all about balance, but it's still odd advice to give to employees. We're talking about a movie bringing together every Disney princess. Once, such an idea was absurd, but in the era of the cinematic universe, all things are possible, especially since this is also the era in which Ralph Breaks the Internet's princess scene made it clear just how much people might love seeing Merida, Aurora, and Mulan interact onscreen. Though the princesses take up little of the film's runtime, they made a huge impact. Multiple news items dissecting, discussing, and celebrating the scene sprung up in the movie's wake. A boatload of merchandise of the princesses in their loungewear was released, and discussion of a pan-princess movie began. And these aren't just idle fan rumors. Ralph directors Phil Johnston and Rich Moore have considered the possibility themselves. In an interview with the AV Club, Moore called it an idea worth exploring, revealing that no matter where the movie played, fans were off the charts about the princess scene. Though they noted that they have no idea if this is an idea Disney is considering, the fact that they repeatedly emphasized fans' love of seeing the princesses do what you always believed they could do is enough to pique some serious fan interest.